What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the CORVETTE channel. Today we're going to be devoting the day to getting this engine sitting where it needs to be in the Corvette. No ifs, ands, or buts, hopefully, knock on wood. So I'm going to set this thing down and show you what I got to do and try to achieve that today. I'm tired of putting it off. So as you can see, the engine is in here. It is sitting down there on the steering rack and pinion. That's no good. The transmission back there is on a little dolly, and the engine is just literally resting on the steering rack. And I've already cut out maybe 3 inches, 2.5 inches of the firewall, and today I'm going to be cutting about 6. I don't really care. The car's already cut, and the car is pretty cheap, and there's literally no going back now since I already started cutting. So I'm going to continue cutting until this thing fits. I at least want the front of the engine behind the steering rack, and if I need to lower the front down more, which right now it can, if it wasn't hitting the steering rack, it could go down maybe 4 inches, I believe is what I calculated. This side looks like less because the engine is supposed to be tilted, and when you look at it this way, the valve cover, the top of the valve cover is like this, and that needs to be like completely flat. And so this side of the oil pan, you can see if I can zoom in, has like 5 inches. So if I can just tilt the engine like it needs to be, drop it down, bring it back away from the steering rack, and give our balancer some room away from that, then that'll be more than sufficient. But like I said, we gotta keep on trimming. You can see back here, this is already hitting the firewall. Up there sitting on the bell housing some. So I'm gonna pick this engine up just a little bit, pull it forward, and get the oscillating tool and the Sawzall and go to town on this thing until it fits. For these caps, or these holes right here, I'm just gonna build some caps, put it on there, and yeah, I'm trying to get to where I can get some engine mounts built for this thing, and then hopefully with moving this front of the engine back to probably here, giving us like 2 inches of room in front of the engine to the steering rack, maybe even like 1.5 inches I'm okay with. Then that'll get our turbo back here some, and then we're probably going to go like this with the exhaust and come out, get rid of this and come out through the side, and then that'll allow us to have more room for a nice manifold. Probably buy one from Ben's Force, and then a better turbo obviously for the bigger injection pump that we have. So let me quit talking and be productive. So here we go. Alright, so I'm going to start a time lapse. I got the engine picked up just so I can cut everything that's back there that's in the way and try to cut back as far as I can. I'm going to get some stuff and plug the injector holes, make sure everything's sealed up tight so I don't get any dust in there. And I got this fan ripping behind me. Hopefully you can hear me just fine, but yeah, I'm going to get this thing started on a time lapse and just keep on cutting away. We'll build the firewall stuff and figure all that stuff out later, but I'm more worried about getting the engine in here than I am repairing the firewall, because I'm sure a lot of people know that in a lot of race cars they build custom firewalls, and right now it's not a concern to me to get that done. So here we go. Alright, so I don't know if you're ready for this, but we got some serious room now. Firewall used to be like maybe right here. I guess you can see it over there. So now we have literally like 6 more inches all the way up. And this is just a flap for the top vents for the AC. So yeah, let me put this phone down and try to slide this thing back in. I think it's gonna be a lot better. So here we go. Alright, so now the problem I'm running into is, since the engine has to be so high to clear the steering rack, the transmission hits the top of the firewall right then there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jack the car up. That's still going to allow the transmission to be on the dolly back there. And then that clearance will increase. And then I'll be able to hopefully push the engine back over this. Because once this goes over this and I get the engine tilted, everything's going to line up way better, at least in my head. And then we could carry on. But for right now, that's the only way I see possible. Because right now it's just a one-man band. So yeah, let me go get the jack and I'm gonna jack this baby up. Alright, so now that we got all that firewall cut out, which is about 8 inches, the engine goes back and then gets right to the point where it can go past the steering rack. And then we come down here. And then you can see, if I get all this stuff out of the way, that, which I've already pulled the engine back forward, but the transmission hits the little torque on thing, and then it's gonna hit the drive shaft too. So I'm gonna have to get under here and get that step out. But so far it's looking good. And just like that, 2 bolts that went through with a 21mm ratchet and a wrench on the top. Not really sure how important it is for the rear diff to have this mount. I'm definitely going to research it, because from what I understand, it's basically like a kind of like a 4-link setup back here. So I guess we'll see. I guess it's got a little bit of give to it. But I'm going to try to get this drive shaft out. I don't know how hard that's going to be. But I think it's just those little 1/4-inch or 8mm bolts, and pull that out and then get that out of here, and then that transmission can keep on coming back. And obviously we still gotta center the transmission in the tunnel, because right now it's all super crooked. So yeah, let me get this out of here and get a wrench and see if I can get these out. And if not, then I think we can keep pulling the transmission back, but it's only gonna make it harder to then get this out. So I'm gonna try to get this out while there's room, if you follow all that. And we got it removed. So come back up here, and then we're going to get to pushing this baby back where she needs to go, which is back there. So here goes nothing. Alright, so back on the front of this thing, we got the drive shaft and the diff to transmission brace out. Wasn't too bad. And then got the drive shaft. I think I just said that, but with the intake on, you really can't complain about the fitment in here. Granted, I cut the firewall like 10 inches back, but this is literally really nice clearance. This, I was concerned about that. The windshield's literally clearance for it, so can't get better than that. That'll slide right up, very nice. So intake, oil filter clears. Engine is up on a piece of like 3/4-inch wood. I drew this on there just to see what it would look like, since I got that on and that cleared, which is very nice to see. This will be very easy. This is our pressure line, so we'll just get a new pressure line right here that'll come up, and then it'll veer back and go in right here. And then the suction line will just come down, have a little bend to it, and just go right here. We have to get a new line right there. That was my bad. Maybe a new damper, because I pried a little bit too much on there trying to get it in there. So everything on this side's looking good. Got to find the bracket for the alternator, and the exhaust on this side The wastegate's literally resting on that bushing, but this turbo is going to go. Probably going to use the Benz Force manifold. Hopefully it fits in here. If not, I'll clear in some of this or do what I got to do to make that fit. Or if anything, use this manifold and get a, whatever the heck this triangle thing's called, to a T3 or T4, and I'll just build a little, like, a little up pipe or backwards or whatever I gotta do to have a turbo, and to have plenty of room to come through here with my exhaust and come out right there. And then the windshield washer fluid will go. The wipers are also gone, and still need to cut the hood potentially, not really sure though. And the engine is level like it should be. You can see the top of the valve cover is level. You don't really look at how the valve cover bolts to the head. And the oil pan is also at the same angle, so the engine is kind of like this, but the oil pan and the valve cover need to be flat. Radiator hose, it literally can't get much better. This, I'm probably going to cut it back and have a bead weld around it so that the hose can just have a slight 45 and run. And then I'll probably buy a new hose, cut it, and then have a coupling right there. And then this one will probably come out about here, run over, and then 90 in. And then gonna run all new fuel lines to my fuel pump. Got the Holly Blue, which was recommended to me. Bought it used, but we tested it, everything looked good, and these are rebuildable, so I'm not really that concerned about it. Definitely gonna have to pull the fuel tank and redo all that good stuff, clean it out really nicely. So intake fits, gotta run fuel lines, vacuum lines, gotta pull the pump and time it correctly, because I kind of just eyeballed it, tried to make a little lock for the pump, but I'm not even gonna attempt to run it like that. I'm gonna pull it out, get the locking tool that goes in there, slide it back in with a new O-ring and a new front cover gasket. I still need to get the clear lines that come off of here to my fittings. I have those over here. And this one is the 603 filter housing. The 606 filter housing, if you're not sure about it, is right here, which has these little like push-in plastic fittings known to crack and leak. So this will be no longer. Yeah, and there's a thing right there with a little screen on it too, where it just clamps onto it. But that'll be no longer. We have all our lines we're gonna get sent off and cleaned. And I think I already mentioned it. I'm not sure what that is, but we have this thing. And I was thinking about it last night. This one is the 12, I believe. So I'm thinking about using one for the fuel pump, obviously, the fan, obviously, and start, and then, or accessories, start, and then maybe running lights, low beams, high beams, and whatever else I need for the last 5. Because from what I understand, this year C4 and maybe some others, I'm not really even knowledgeable on Corvettes to be honest, but they use signals through the ECU for the brake lights to work. And if you put in some like aftermarket taillights, sometimes they won't work and you need different, something weird, I'm not even sure. All the guys with the nice fancy crazy design taillights have those, or have gone into those issues. So I'm planning on just rewiring the whole car, getting rid of all this mess. The ECU for the engine is already gone. I cut through some wires in there, so literally I'm gonna have to rewire the whole thing. So I'm not really too concerned. Yeah. And I just seen a video today on Facebook about a guy that makes a aluminum shroud thing that bolts to this potentially, and then it can house a brushless fan that's supposed to have a ton of CFM. So that'd be nice to get rid of this whole thing. It's been smacked like 10 times putting the engine in. I don't even know where it's smacked at. Oh, there we go. A couple little chunks out of it, and then right here it's all beat up. So yeah, it's coming along. Everything's looking good. I'm not really sure about the hood height, but that's literally the least of my concerns, is if I have to cut the hood. And 606 is sticking out just a little bit. That's more than okay with me, because it's obviously going to be pretty evident whenever there's a 3-inch titanium exhaust sticking out the side, and obviously rolling coal, more than likely. Not really wanting to do that intentionally, but it comes with the power that we're trying to achieve in this thing. Out back, probably going to definitely rip out everything, do a 4-link, a 9-inch, and whatever gear ratio is going to be good with this transmission, which is from a 13 F-150 with the 5.0 two-wheel drive. And yeah, then a custom little drive shaft, ton of wiring, ton of fabrication. Still got to do all the intake, cold side, and intercooler. Not really too much room for a water to air intercooler like I would like. That was my goals originally with this thing, but maybe we can put something like down in here where the charge comes in and then runs around back to the intake, something of that nature. I know the shorter the better, but we will see once we get to that point. So appreciate everybody watching. Like, subscribe, comment, tell me what else you'd like to see, or if you have any questions. But definitely trying to get this thing done. At least some engine mounts. I don't have my welder here, so I can't even start on that, and I got to buy some rubber mounts. Thinking on this, I'm gonna cut all this stuff out for the factory engine mount, and then brace all this back up, because this is where the like this bolts to the frame, and then this is the subframe for the car, which also has a control arm mounts. But I'm gonna cut this here and get rid of this factory engine mount, and then come off of here where there's 3 bolts right here, and then 1 down there, and then run something here, and then have a mount off of this so that it kind of isn't really straight across, but kind of is. And then we'll do something with this turbo. And yeah, one of my concerns was this, but I'd say we have more than it, pretty close to 1 inch of room, and the last injector hole is like right here, so that's good, somewhere in there. So there's still plenty of room to get a socket on there and to get the injectors in. Still got to send those out and get some freshies back, and starter's still out. And yeah, and I have to get a new fitting right there, because I actually accidentally kinked it when the engine's been sitting on it, which is literally just a little line I'll make a new one of. And then yeah, I still got to get which I already have the Benz Force adapter on the transmission as well. That's another thing I could talk about, I suppose. Where are my fittings? Somewhere. Yeah, here it is, I believe. Yeah, so this is the, I think it's 1/2 inch MPT, 3/8 MPT. So 3/8 MPT to, sheesh, I should have looked at this before I started doing this. Okay, so this is the 3/8 MPT to 6AN. We got some 6AN left over from the rat rod. I could just buy this from him and then use some fittings, and probably have to buy some fittings to run that. So with the transmission core lines, we'll just run it along the frame rail, put it inside of here somewhere, pull this lid up, put it in there so it gets some good airflow. Buy a new radiator, so we rule out any questionable things going through this engine after we just put all this time and effort and money into this thing. And water pump, I was told, is like a pretty good failure point, so we're going to change the water pump, new thermostat, and hopefully we'll be rocking and rolling pretty sooner than later. So, and I'm pretty sure we got like 80 subscribers once we started talking about the C4 Corvette. Pretty positive I'm the first one to have the engine in where it's got to go, making sure everything fits good. And hopefully not this week, I'll be on vacation, but the following week or weekend I'll be doing the engine mounts and getting things finalized in there.